There are several reasons why I chose to stop renting to Section 8 tenants. And this video is for you if you think renting to Section 8 is guaranteed money and that is the easy button for your rental property business. In my experience, it has not been the easy button. It's been everything but easy. So I stopped renting to them under certain conditions. I do have a few left. I got a few reasons why I stopped renting to them. The first issue that I encountered is some of the properties I bought, they already had tenants in them, Section 8 tenants. And then that was my first introduction to the agency. And so the transfer process was not so easy. So say you buy a property in January, it might take until March or April before all of the systems are correct and you start getting your money. Now they will back pay you, but that was my first initial hassle. And then I started to see a breakdown in the types of tenants that were on the program. And I mean, the main issue I have seen is that a lot of the Section 8 tenants, because they have no skin in the game, they have no respect for your property. And you would think that people would care about their own living conditions, but you never know. And so I've seen some really poor living conditions with those types of tenants. And it's almost like sometimes it seems like the apartments get trashed. I don't have any other way to describe it, but they basically treat the property like a cheap hotel instead of somewhere that they should be treating like their own, because this is where they live and where they lay their head and usually where they're raising their children and everything like that. But it's just no sense of ownership from what I have seen. And I think there's a few reasons why. Now, you do have two different types of tenants. You have some tenants on the program who have a responsibility. So maybe the agency pays 90% and they owe 10%. So they have a small portion of the rent that they have to pay every month. And then you have tenants who they don't have any responsibility. And there's a gift and a curse to both of those. The tenants who don't have any responsibility, they act like they don't have any responsibility in life, with other bills. Like it just, how do I say this without offending anybody? It seems like the agency's attempt to help people get on their feet or correct for some circumstances that are not ideal. For some people, it removes their ability to be responsible tenants. And so when you disrespect the rules of the property, when you cause damage to the property, a lot of my Section 8 tenants, they move people in. So you'll have like one person who is in communication with the agency, one person on the lease, one person on the contract. And then a lot of times we get boyfriends that move in and things like that. And then that causes a whole nother host of issues. And then you have other tenants in the building who are like, well, it was fine until this boyfriend moved in. And now there's, disruption. And now he's doing this and he's doing that. And so it's just a lot of unknowns. And then if I go back to the tenants who have a rent responsibility, there's issues with that too. So let's just use round numbers. If your rent is $1,000 and let's say the agency is paying $900 and you are supposed to pay $100, a lot of the tenants simply won't pay. And they know the system, they know the game, because I'm not going to put you out when I'm getting $900 and I'm missing $100 from you. They know I'm not going to put them out. And it's going to cost me money to put them out. And it's going to take 2 or 3 months to actually get them out. So I'm going to keep collecting that rent. But at the end of the year, my books are a nightmare. And my bookkeeper is like, okay, so-and-so owes us $1,200 in rent. And then they owe us $600 in late fee. And it's like, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's like, then I'm forced with a decision. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to put them out? It's a whole host of issues. And I have not been able to successfully get the agency to intervene or help with any issues. Usually, if you go to the agency and you say, I'm having a problem with your tenant, they pretend innocent. Like, that contract is between you and them. We are just a fiduciary. And it's like, if you're paying someone's rent in full, do you not care that there are rent violations, that they have moved people in, that you are also paying for, that they are running illegal businesses? out of the apartment, do you not care about any of those things? It's almost like it is free money. And this is what the Republicans be talking about. Like, I'm not for either side, Republican or Democrat, but this is exactly what they be talking about. They're like, why are we paying tax dollars for people who that don't have any skin in the game? And it's apparent in how they act. So when you're working with this agency and you fully expect for this agency to be able to intervene, help you make corrections, help you get things done, they're like, my name is Bennett. I ain't in it. And it's like, okay, well, now I'm going to have to evict this person and put them out like a regular person. And it's like, if I have to go through all of that, if there's no benefit to allowing agency tenants in my unit, I might as well just keep doing private pay, like market rate tenants. Because if I screen well enough, I don't have to worry about people not paying. That's all in the screening. If a person loses their job, that's out of their control. But it's almost more risk to bringing in a Section 8 tenant. All across the board. You don't know what your property is going to look like. You don't know if they're going to pay. You don't know if they're going to move somebody in. You just don't know what comes along with those type of tenants because you can't really screen them because their background is not optimal, right? They might not have the credit. They might have some evictions. Like, it's kind of like, you really have no way of telling it. Well, I thought I didn't have any way of telling if it was a good tenant. What I do now, though, is for seniors, like, if you're a senior, I will let you in the program. Like, I want you to go through my application process. And if you look decent and you 55 plus, I will let you in the program. Why? Because seniors are reliable. They are quiet. They don't want no drama. Like, they just trying to have quiet enjoyment of their apartment. And a lot of seniors, once they find a place that they like and is comfortable and it works, it's close to all the things they need to do in the city, they're never going to leave. So I do have some older tenants who are Section 8 tenants, and they're some of my best tenants. But outside of seniors, I have had very little success and, went through a period where I was like, no, let's put all of them out. Absolutely no Section 8 tenants. I was declining all Section 8 applications. And now I'm reconsidering and I'm thinking that maybe there's a middle ground. And here's what I come up with. The middle ground is you're going to fill out my application process. I'm going to assess a monthly fee to your rent. So if market rent is $1,000, yours is $1,075 because every month there is more administrative work on my behalf that I have to do with you as a Section 8 tenant than I do with a private pay. So I'm going to assess an extra fee. I'm still not going to allow any evictions, and I'm still going to check your on-time bill payment from your credit report. And then thirdly, I've implemented that there is a house visit requirement. So we need to come visit where you live now, and you're going to pay us $75 to do it. And so you're going to have to really want to leave where you are if you're on Section 8 to come and be in one of my units. You're going to really have to want to leave, and you really going to have to be a decent person, or you're a senior. So that's what I've implemented. I have not rented to anybody under those conditions. I just opened up my applications, and I haven't had any bites. And maybe it's because it seems like the process is pretty strict. A lot of people don't want you to come see where they live. Why? Because they have trashed the last place. And you can't rely on landlords to give you referrals. I don't even call landlords anymore. So, like, don't give me no phone numbers. Don't ask me to call your job. Don't ask me to call your landlord. People lie. These landlords, if they have a tenant who has trashed their apartment, they will say whatever to get that person out. Because a lot of times the people can't leave your apartment until they find another place to go, right? Even if they don't want to live with you, in your place anymore, they got to find somewhere else to go. And when you're on Section 8 and the number of landlords who accept Section 8 is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, these landlords are like, sure, she was fantastic. So I don't do that anymore either. I don't take anybody's word. I'm like, I just got to look at the paperwork, and whatever story of paperwork tells me, that's what I have to believe. And then when I come, if we go to your apartment and it tells a different story than the paperwork, then you are declined as well. Another thing that is worrisome is when it comes time for lease renewals and rent increases. And when you're on Section 8, they have a tiered pricing they have decided how much they are going to pay for the apartment that you're offering, even if what you can get in the private market is different. And so sometimes it's like, well, why would I lose money to rent to this person who is adding overhead, adding operations to me? And so when you go to renew someone's lease, and maybe I'm raising rent by $100, Section 8 can come back and say, well, we are only approving $50. And then again, I'm feeling trapped in a box. And it's like, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to put them out, have to spend a couple $1,000s to turn the unit around and get a new tenant in? Or am I just going to take it and bow down? And so I just got tired of I just got tired of having to bow down to them. I'm like, they don't run my business. They don't get to make decisions for me. If I say the rent is this, the rent is this. That's another reason why I implemented that $75 per month admin fee, because I have to go back and forth with this agency and they are not timely. You might email somebody's case manager. It might take them a week or two to get back to you. You submit a form. They say they lost the form. It could be 2-3 months before you get your issue resolved. And so with rent increases, with my private pay, you give them 30 or 60 days notice and their rent changes in the system and they start paying the new rent immediately. With Section 8, you have to go back and forth. It could be 2-3 months and they're not going to back pay you. So it's just a lot of operational hassle. I haven't found a reason to do it. And it's unfortunate because it's like, you want to support people and, well, I should say I used to be okay with trying to help people get on their feet, but it just doesn't work. It just don't work for my business model anymore. It's like, if you're not on your feet, I'm sorry. You got to find somewhere else to live. You got to go get on your feet somewhere else, because I can't, take risks to my business for your life situation, And so I do think that before, when I said absolutely no, put them all out, I ain't accepted no more, I was, possibly had gone too far to the other side. But now I'm kind of a little more open to there may be a middle ground. And this is just hopeful at this point, because I haven't actually rented to anybody under these new stipulations. But I'm hopeful that maybe there are people who are trying to get on their feet, who are honest, truthful, and treat their home with responsibility. I think the other thing that kind of, I don't want to say negates, but another thing that kind of incentivizes people on Section 8 not to do the right thing is that if their income changes, from the time they applied to, wherever they are now, the Section 8 is going to require them to either pay more rent or to take over their rent payments. Like, you can get kicked off the program if your income changes. And so why would you change your income and take on an $1,000 a month bill? It rarely happens. So they're doing whatever they can do to stay on the system as long as possible, but that doesn't stop them from finding ways to make income. And so their hair salons are nail technicians. There are all sorts of businesses being run out of your apartment, and you're still not getting any rent. Like, I have tenants who are responsible for a portion of their rent. They're running an illegal business out of the unit, and they still don't pay. And so, yes, I can put them out, I can evict them, but the fact of the matter is that I shouldn't have to. If you're working with a government agency, there should be some sort of guarantee that, if the tenant is not behaving properly, the agency should come get on the tenant. Like, we're going to stop paying your rent if you don't. They don't even do that. And so it's like, I've asked them multiple times, like, oh, so you encourage bad behavior. And so, of course, you can't expect the tenant to do the right thing if the agency is kind of like, well, I just think, like, my honest opinion is that it's very difficult to mix different types of tenants. If you have bought a property and it's a multi-unit, say you got 5, let's just say you got 6 units. If you want to have 6 Section 8 tenants, that's probably okay. But when you try to mix Section 8 tenants with private pay tenants, it just seems to be a clash of, personality, a clash of the way they care for the common areas, a clash of, company coming in and out. And so now you're dealing with people problems. And it's like, this is not high school. Like, why am I getting phone calls about everything you're doing? And so it's like, now you take on this sort of adult supervisory role. And it's like, ain't nobody got time for that either. But if you got a building full of Section 8 tenants, you could probably just say, I don't want to hear no complaints. Y'all can burn the building down to the ground. I don't care. And I think there are landlords who have that mindset. They're like, uh, I'm going to fill this building with Section 8 tenants, and I'm going to collect rent every month, and I'm going to act like they don't exist otherwise. And I just don't run my business like that. And you can't do that when you have private pay and, in the building. You can't just ignore maintenance calls. You can't never get the hallways clean. You can't never cut the grass. Like, you can't do that when you have private pay. Well, you can do that if you want to have, I don't want to say you can, but some people, that's exactly how they run their Section 8 buildings. And I kind of take issue with that because it's like, well, just because they're on Section 8, it doesn't mean that you get to be a slumlord. And so maybe I just read the room wrong. Maybe that's exactly what that means. That if you're going to take Section 8, it's licensed to be a slumlord. I'm up to a handful of reasons now why it just hasn't worked for my business. And I'm in a phase now where I'm trying to decomplicate the business. I'm trying to streamline processes. I'm trying to make things as smooth as possible, automate as many things as possible. And so it just seems like dealing with Section 8 is just too much paperwork. Nothing is online. Everything needs to be printed and faxed and emailed. It's just like, who has time for all of that when everything else in my business is moving via AI, via agent, via some sort of automated process? And so Section 8, it just doesn't fit into my business model. And that's okay. It just, for me, it has seemed that the guaranteed money does not make for an easy business. So to each its own. And I forgot one of the most important parts was the abatements. Section 8 love to come in and abate your rent, which means that they are not going to pay you. Multiple reasons for abatement. Section 8 also says they want to inspect the property once a year. So when they come in and inspect the property, they basically want you to restore the property to where it was when the tenant moved in. But there's never been any conversation about how the quality of the unit got downgraded in the first place. So there's never any fault or how did all these things in the apartment get broken? They don't care. They just want them fixed. And they don't want to compensate you to do it. So you're supposed to come out of your own pocket to pay for repairs of things that other people have broken. And if you don't do it, Section 8 says we're not going to pay you. Again, trapped and in a pickle. And I'm like, I'm not dealing with anybody who's going to put me, who's going to try to run me. Like, I'm running the business. You don't tell me when, where, and how to do things. And so if they've got repairs that they want you to do, and the real kicker is they will abate if the tenant doesn't do what they want them to do. It's never about what I want them to do. So if they're trying to go through recertification with a tenant, they're trying to make sure that they should continue paying this person's rent and that they can stay on the program. Well, there are some things that the tenant have to do. They have to fill out some paperwork. And for a lot of times, they have to allow someone to do a home visit. And even with the inspections, with the yearly repairs, they have to set up time and allow for the person to come inspect their apartment. Well, sometimes tenants know they're living foul. They know they got mad people living in there. They know that they run illegal business. So they don't want the agency in their apartment. And so they don't allow the inspectors to come in. They don't allow the home visits. They don't fill out their paperwork. And now the agency is coming to me, the owner, and saying, well, I have to abate the rent because I don't know if this person is eligible anymore. And it's like, that's not my problem either. Because now they're in my apartment and you're saying that it's my problem and I have to get them out. Because if you stop paying me, I got to put them out. Who's going to pay for that? And so it's like, how can I be held responsible for the tenant not doing what they're supposed to do? So it's like, why am I being punished? Because the contract between you and the tenant is now falling apart. It's like, I signed a contract with you to say that said you were going to pay for this person. And what the fine print really says is exactly the way they operate. We're going to pay until any of these things happen. And so when you get those RTAs, I don't even know what it stands for anymore, but when you get that contract from Section 8, read it from top to bottom. You will discover that it's mostly to their benefit. And that you as the owner are going to get the short end of the stick. And I've just decided that I'm just not going to participate in that anymore. So that's been my experience. Let me know down in the comments if there's some reasons why I should reevaluate my stance on Section 8. I would love to hear it. But my name is Jerry, and if you're still here, do me a favor, go ahead and get that like button a smash. Keep building that confidence and keep building that cash. You can get a behind the scenes look on all of my businesses over on Substack at Confidence is Cash. And you can see how I'm using AI to run my real estate business here on YouTube at the Prompt Life Podcast. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week.